Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome to Lookback. This is a show that I do almost every week where I take a look at games that I reviewed at this same time a year, 5 years, and 10 years ago. I do this for two reasons. One, to see if there's been any change in them, but two, it's also just a good way to talk about older games, because we are always talking about new stuff. So let's get started. We'll go back a year. A year ago, Marvel Champions. I know that with my ranking here, I'm on the low end of a lot of people. I like the game. I think it's fine. I have not followed up on it as much as many people have, and Roy Cannaday probably gives it a much higher rating than me here in the Dice Tower, but I still think it's a fun game. There's a lot of interesting things back and forth, and I also think that it scales nicely to a smaller group of people and brings out the theme, and the theme seems to be more pronounced with each coming set. Karn. This is a two-player game, which is almost, in a sense, a poor man's Onitama or a more convoluted Onitama. Now, that's not to go against Karn. I think Karn has a lot of cool things about it as you move pieces and try to do different things over the course of the game. There's just a slight bit more randomness, and that's the only reason I compare the two of them. They're very similar in how they feel, but Karn has a little bit more theme and a little bit more silliness, I guess, while Onitama is more straightforward and quicker. They're both good. Onitama is fantastic. Karn is good. Trismegistus. This one I dropped slightly just because I don't know how often I'm going to get this to the table. Of all the T games, I call them, in this series from these designers, this is an excellent game. The dice and the symbology and the overwhelming dump of learning the game makes me want to bring it a little bit less to the table, but there's a lot going on, and there's some really cool combos and things that this game does that I enjoy. Paris New Eden. This one kind of came and went. I really like this game, just of collecting different things and placing different workers on the board. I thought it was a simple game with a fun post-apocalyptic theme that was not as nasty and dirty as most of them are. This was a cleaner, fun, medium weight game. And then Tainted Grail. Whew! It's been a year since Tainted Grail's come out. Still think this game is fantastic. It's very difficult. There's sometimes parts of it that can be grindy, but the story and everything makes up for it, and I look forward to seeing the next chapters of this when they come out soon. All right, 5 years ago, a lot of games 5 years ago. First of all, we have Star Trek 5-Year Mission. This was just awful. A cooperative dice game that was simply almost all luck. Too bad. Far Space Foundry. I know a lot of people enjoyed this game. I didn't. It had these two halves. A worker placement game. I felt like it was a lot of work for a few points. It just didn't appeal to me at all. But it did look nice. Unlike that, Among the Nobles did not look nice. Just placing cubes on nobles. Kind of a boring game. Sapiens. This one looked really cool. And it was kind of like dominoes. But I just felt like you were kind of at the mercy of what you drew, and it didn't seem like you had a lot of choices in this game that looked neat, had some fun ideas, but that ultimately didn't go anywhere. Top face, just match faces, or make the face, and then people have to figure out which face you're making. Basically, you're matching your face to a face on the board. A simple, silly game for kids. Thunderbirds. Z loves this one way more than I do. I have no connection to the Thunderbirds. Well, neither did he, Z, so we're both basing it off the games. I thought it was okay. It's fun, it's interesting, but it doesn't feel that different than other games, especially even made for the same designer, like Pandemic. On the other hand, the Big Book of Madness, I think, has held up well. The Big Book of Madness kind of fits in my philosophy these days, where I'm getting tired of playing cooperative games that are so overwhelmingly difficult, we can't even come close to beating them. Big Book of Madness is a much easier entry point, and I liked it for that reason. It feels more like a family cooperative game. Unusual Suspects. You know why I dropped this one a full point? I still like the game, as you ask questions and people eliminate them, because this game seems to bring out the base instincts of people, and while that can be funny, this is a hard one to talk about, sometimes the funniness of Unusual Suspects comes at the expense of other people, and for that reason, it's not a game I can bring out everywhere. Dice City. Building a city, rolling dice. A little slower than I would like, and I think I like it best with 2 or 3 because of the downtime in the game, but it has some cool ideas, and I wish we would see maybe a 2.0 version of this someday. The Pursuit of Happiness. You just want to live a life, and Pursuit of Happiness is a decent game, but an incredibly fun experience. As you go through life trying to, find happiness in a career or spouse or hobbies or whatever, some expansions also have helped make the game more interesting. Speaking of expansions, we have Roll for the Galaxy Ambition. This was the first of 2 expansions for Roll for the Galaxy. This is the one I like better. Adds more dice, adds more tiles. That's pretty much all I'm looking for in this kind of expansion. On the other hand, Race for the Galaxy Xeno Invasion, I expected to dislike because I disliked the last Race for the Galaxy expansion and I was getting kind of ho-hum on them. But this one added a nice new chunk of things. You fight off these aliens that come in, not necessarily cooperatively, but you're all working together in some sort of way. Race for the Galaxy is a fun game, and this felt like it was something new for once. Timeline Challenge. I love Timeline, where you turn over cars and try to put them into a timeline. Great educational and fun game, and there's like 50 of them. Timeline Challenge, though, lets you plug them into a bigger game. It's not just put them in line now. It adds a few things. All my Timeline games are in Timeline Challenge. It's a lot of fun. Outfoxed, an amazingly cool deduction game for kids. Highly recommend it. And Stellar Conflict. This was a reimplementation of Lightspeed. I like Lightspeed when it came out originally, but it was a very cheap-looking game. See the company who made it. Stellar Conflict added special powers. There's a lot of cool things. I just really like this game. It takes longer to score the game than to play it. I don't care. It's fun. It's silly. It's one that's you probably haven't heard of, but it's really good. 10 years ago, it's hard to believe AEG is the dominant force and makes the amazing games they do now, considering some of the games they originally came out with. One of these was Pressure Matrix. This was, kind of, hey, we're roller skating in the future. It just was an awful, awful game. It Happens. Yeah, they didn't mean the word to be it there. This is Stefan Feld game. Back before he was more as famous as he is now. A very light dice rolling game just didn't do anything for me. Speaking of light dice rolling games, Ligretto, very popular game. I don't hate it. It's fine, but it's very mass markety. Orders Up. This is a simple game about rolling dice, collecting orders from Game Right Games. Works well with kids. Speaking of working well with kids, we have Sumo Ham Slam. We have these little sumo wrestlers, and you put pennies or different metal tokens. I don't remember if it's metal tokens or pennies. It's been a while since I played it, but it made them heavier and heavier and harder to knock over. That's pretty much the whole game. Livingston. Wow, it's been a while since Livingston here. And I wonder if this might even rank a 7 now. Livingston is an abstract-ish game, but it had this neat idea that you need to be giving money to the queen. And if you didn't, whoever gave the least money to the queen at the end of the game loses, and you're moving across tracks. This one, at the time, maybe I thought it was too light. Now I wonder if I might like it more. But it's certainly an interesting one if you find it in a bargain bin. Duck Duck Safari was the sequel to Duck Duck Go. I don't think it's as good as Duck Duck Go, which was a programming game for kids. This added a bunch of games inside, some of them better than others, but overall, it's fun and you get to play with these funny little ducks. And then Bicycle. Bicycle's an interesting game for me because I really enjoy it, and it actually went up from this rating and then down a little bit. Bicycle has these weighted balls that you flick, just like Pitch Car. But you can curve these things if you flick them the right way because of the way they're weighted. It's really weird. You have to actually test it out to see it in action. It's great. Problem is there's not expansions and jumps and all the cool things that Pitch Car have. So that also it's harder to do multiple racers in a game of Bicycle or its sequel Roadsters. So I like it a lot. It's a neat self-contained small racing game. It just didn't grow to the grandiosity that Pitch Car is. And that's what I reviewed a year, 5 years, and 10 years ago. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching Look Back on the Dice Tower.